It's Tuesday, January 19th, and it's time for your Barbados Today Morning News Update. Disgruntled students and parents are taking the Caribbean Examinations Council to court. Frustrated by the initial grading of last year's CSEC and CAPE examinations, and with the subsequent review process offered by the Regional Examinations Body, the group of concerned parents of Barbados has retained the services of one of the island's top legal firms to file a class action suit against CXC. They have hired Aegis Chambers after failing to reach what they say is an amicable and fair solution with CXC.
It is with a profound sense of regret and sadness that the group of concerned parents of Barbados have concluded that we will proceed with our legal action against CXC with respect to the revised methodology exams of 2020 that resulted in erroneous grades being issued to hundreds of children in Barbados and thousands within the Caribbean. 3 months later, the review process is virtually complete, and very few of the grades meet current acceptable demands. We know that the children deserve better. They have earned better.
Attorney at law LALU HANUMAN says Jada Construction's bosses should be made to pay the sum of $100,000 rather than face a jail time over construction work that Dover residents claim has broken up their night's rest. In the latest development in an over year-long battle with the construction firm and in an apparent change of heart, HANUMAN said he would rather the directors of the company be made to pay a fine. However, the decision to impose any penalty rests with Justice Shauna Griffith when the case comes before her next Monday.
The work's going on past the hour of 6, going on until some instances at the particular Ocean 2 site until 9:30 at night. And of course, Sunday as well, and quite often starting before 8 in the morning. So they were blatantly breaching the court order. So I had no choice but to apply to the court for a committal proceeding to take place. But I don't really want anybody to go to prison. They have reached their undertaking to the court. Therefore, clearly they should suffer some consequences. And I'm saying that consequence could be a fine. Given the repeated breaches of the order, there are something like, I would have to look carefully, but something as many as 40 known breaches of the order now to date. Clearly it deserves some sort of sanction. So I'm saying a fine. I'm willing to negotiate with them to let them pay a fine.
As government-paid healthcare workers across the board agitate for hazard allowances in the face of a recent spike in COVID-19 cases, the spotlight has now turned to possible similar incentives for frontline workers in the private sector. However, Chairman of the Private Sector Association of Barbados, Ed CLARKE, is suggesting that such a payout may be far-fetched at this stage. Emmanuel Joseph reports.
It is being suggested in some quarters that private sector workers, such as gas station attendants, cashiers, and customer service representatives who come into direct contact with thousands of people daily, ought to receive hazard pay as well. But Clark seems not to be buying that argument.
I would not expect us in Barbados to have to pay frontline. I mean, all of the cashiers and all the customer service people across Barbados in the retail stores and outlets and so on, restaurant and bar staff and, everything like that. I mean, I don't see how we could afford to do that at this stage. I would expect true frontline workers are the people dealing with the security and health situation in Barbados at this time.
While Clark argued that he did not see the need for hazard pay for frontline workers in the private sector who did not deal with COVID-19 cases, he is suggesting that a comprehensive overhaul of the health protocols and system was necessary should things deteriorate badly in the country.
If things really, really got very bad, we need to look at the whole situation and see how we manage the COVID situation. But right now, I don't see a need for that. We are trying to follow protocols. insisting that people follow protocols in our establishments. We are ensuring that our staff follow the proper protocols. And we are hopeful that when the staff leave our environment and go home and go elsewhere in the public, that they're doing likewise. We can only manage the situation within our environments.
Meanwhile, the Private Sector Association chairman has warned that the employers who force employees to turn up at their workplace for duty while awaiting COVID-19 test results are treading on very dangerous ground. CLARKE has placed the business community on notice that those guilty of such actions could face the law courts. Emmanuel Joseph for Barbados Today.
A well-known family physician is seeking answers about the 84-year-old man who died at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital's accident and emergency on Saturday night. Dr. Adrian Lord wants to know why the elderly man has not yet been recorded as the island's 8th COVID-19 related death. On Sunday, Health Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic explained that the man had a long history of lung disease and chronic non-communicable diseases. He said that the precise cause of death, whether from COVID-19 or complications from his other illnesses, could not be ascertained until the completion of a post-mortem. But Dr. Lord, speaking on the latest development on social media, said while the law states that persons dying within 24 hours after being admitted to A&E must receive a post-mortem, the test results showed that the elderly man had contracted the COVID-19 virus.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, Jamaica is taking steps to facilitate some of the new COVID-19 testing requirements implemented by some of its major source markets. The details of that story from Television Jamaica.
The island's tourism sector could face major setbacks if quick action is not taken to address measures which have been instituted by some of the country's largest tourism market. The United States has indicated that effective January 26, all airline passengers from international destinations will have to show proof of a negative PCR test before boarding flights to that country. The UK and Canada also have similar measures in place. Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett says his ministry has stepped up its efforts to address the requests, with hopes of having everything in place by February 1. He says this was of paramount importance as the requirements had already resulted in a further reduction of well below 40% in tourist arrivals for the winter season.
We are seeing that together Jamaica will be in a position to respond positively to the demands, particularly of the United States, for testing before departure to that country. We are secondly working with the Global Rescue Team that have been at the center of the end-to-end health insurance coverage that we're seeking to enable every single visitor who comes to this country to participate in as an important cover for how we are going to be able to manage costs in relation to visitors coming to our shores.
In the meantime, Mr. Bartlett says cruise ships are not expected to return to Jamaica before May.
And finally, the world must act with far greater solidarity now in memory of the 2 million people who have lost their battle with COVID-19. That's according to United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who said the deadly impact of the pandemic has been made worse by the absence of a global coordinated effort. He said while the science was succeeding, solidarity was failing when it comes to COVID-19 vaccines.
Safe, Effective COVID-19 vaccines are being rolled out, and the UN is supporting countries to mobilize the largest global immunization effort in history. We are committed to making sure that vaccines are seen as global public goods, people's vaccines. That requires full funding for the Access to COVID-19 Tools Accelerator and its COVAX facility, which is dedicated to making vaccines available and affordable to all. The world's leading economies have a special responsibility. Yet today, we are seeing that vaccine vacuum. Vaccines are reaching high-income countries quickly, while the world's poorest have none at all. Science is succeeding, but solidarity is failing. Some countries are pursuing side deals, even procuring beyond need. Governments have a responsibility to protect their populations, but vaccine nationalism is self-defeating and will delay a global recovery. COVID-19 cannot be beaten one country at a time. We need manufacturers to step up their commitment to work with the COVAX facility and countries around the world to ensure enough supply and fair distribution.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.